Okay, I will now call this meeting to order at 5 p.m. on March 18th of 2026, and we will start with the territorial acknowledgement. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge with respect the history and living culture of the Anishinaabe, the people of the Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi Nation, who have inhabited this land from time immemorial. We recognize that these lands are the territories of the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, collectively known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the keepers of this land. Georgian Bluffs is located on lands encompassed by treaties 45.5, 67, 72, 82, and 93. We reflect on our role as treaty people and the need to live in respect and peace and show respect to the First Peoples who inhabit these lands and waters. Moving on to adoption of the agenda. Further to a request by the applicants, the public hearing for zoning bylaw amendment application Z02-26 for Kinsale Investments Limited has been postponed to a later date. Further to deferral of the associated consent application by the Committee of Adjustment. So the recommendation is that the public hearing for zoning bylaw amendment application Z-02-26 for Kinsale Investments Limited be postponed to a later date to allow the applicants to submit a revised proposal. And further that the agenda be approved as amended. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor McComb, Councillor Winters, any discussion? Call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Does any member have a pecuniary interest to declare? Councillor Day.
I had this prepared and now I just have to scroll down and find the right ones, but they're the ones that relate to the Blue Water District School Board and trustees. I figured I would.
A disqualifying interest there.
Interest. I think I can come up with those numbers during the consent agenda.
Okay, and for everybody else, if one should rise through the meeting, then you can declare at that time. Moving on to minutes of previous meetings, we have March 4th, 2026 minutes, and the recommendation is that the minutes contained herein be adopted. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Pringle, Councillor McComb. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? Is carried. Does any member wish to make an announcement? Seeing none. We have no public hearings now. Public participation. We do have a couple of presentations. I'll just read the rulings around these to start with. Any person who wishes to make a presentation to council must register with the clerk at least 10 days in advance of the scheduled meeting. To register, you can complete the online delegation form at www.georgianbluffs.ca/delegations or call the clerk's office at 519-376-2729, extension 601. And our first one is the Ontario Federation of Trail Riders, Rail Trail Access, and I would welcome Lisa Thompson to come up and present, and just come up to the podium here. You have 10 minutes to present.
Thank you, and thank you all for allowing me to be here tonight. I do appreciate it. So just a little bit about us. I'm the executive director of the Ontario Federation of Trail Riders. We were established in 1992. We actually have two clubs in the area, the Bruce Peninsula Off-Road Riders Association, as well as the Dufferin, which covers Grey, Rooftop Recreational Riders Association. I'll say that 3 times fast. We are a provincial-wide organization. We provide controlled access to our members throughout the province. We provide our members with trail maps, with support and events. We have just under 6,000 members throughout the entire province. We go all the way up to Sudbury as well, and all the way east to Ottawa. All of our members are insured, plated, and they all must have a OFTR valid permit whenever they're out on our trails. We come with $15 million liability insurance, and we have land use agreements with a lot of municipalities within the province, as well as the counties. Locally here, we have land use agreements with Bruce County, Dufferin County, and Grey County. We're experienced partners with many other municipalities throughout the province. The trail in question is here, Georgian Bluffs Rail Trail. We have a lot of members in the area that have expressed interest on having access to this trail. We do know that it is used by hikers, cyclists, ATVs with permits, and snowmobiles. We would be interested in being another user on that trail. Currently, we know that you work closely with the South Bruce Peninsula ATV Club and as well the OFSC for snowmobiles. So we understand that you already have mixed use with a combination of motorized as well as non-motorized. We have access to other rail trails, so we understand what needs to be done. We're just hoping that we can work together with you guys. Again, we are insured, we are organized. We name the municipality on our insurance policy so that it reduces liability for you as well. And we also promote trail etiquette and safety education. One of the things that we require all of our members to do is if they come across another user, depending on who it is, they either slow down to pass, or if they see an equestrian, the instructions are to take off your helmet, shut up your bike, and wait for further instruction. So we have successful rail trail agreements, as I mentioned before. Renfrew County is one of our newest ones that we have out in Renfrew County. For Spruce County, we've been working for them for quite a few years now, and then Gray and Dufferin. And Gray, we work very closely with, and Sarah Johnson says that if you have any questions about us, give her a call. So again, our offer is we can bring proof of our $15 million life insurance policy. Again, all of our trail members carry their trail permit. This year it's a lovely green. They have to carry their permits. It's either a sticker on their bike. We also have a digital wallet version as well. All of our members follow very strict safety and education. We're very strict with our riders. We really promote having ongoing coordination and relationships with township staff or county staff, which we do with a lot of pretty much everywhere in the province. We would like to have a written agreement with you guys, and then of course that we could outline, permitted times. Much like in Dufferin and Gray, there's only certain times of the year that people can use it. The other thing that we do have in Bruce County is that in order to ride the rail trail, you have to have a minimum of an M1 license or a G2 license, so you don't have kids on the trails. And we'd like to be able to set up a protocol to work with the other user groups so we can do things about trail closures, maintenance, and shared stewardship. So again, we're asking council for your consideration. Again, we support safe, responsible riding. We educate our riders. We do know that the trail access does provide economic and tourism opportunities for the communities, especially these days. A lot of people are doing staycations. They want to stay in Ontario, but our riders are going on the trails. They're stopping off in businesses. We know they're getting gas. They're staying in local accommodations. We also know from an economic study that was done a couple of years ago, the average off-road motorcycle rider spends $200 a day on a day trip during the season. We're structured. Having a local club reduces unmanaged access. We do have people that come out if we do see somebody who's on there that's not supposed to be, like they don't have an OFTR permit. We educate them, tell them that they can't be here, and they could technically get charged for trespassing, depending on the municipality. And again, we protect the municipality through the insurance coverage and organized permit system. Next steps. We're asking for your support, and hopefully we can work with staff to come up with something, some sort of land use agreement or some sort of understanding. We will work with municipal staff, telling anything that we need to do. We just really would like to have the opportunity to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you. I will turn to council. Any questions? Councillor Day.
Thank you for taking the time to come in tonight and propose this to the Township of Georgian Bluffs. There's some clear advantages to creating a union with you. You've done a great job of outlining the safety. I was really impressed with equestrian safety. That's That's a great thing to see. I was also curious in terms of stewardship, if you could elaborate a little bit. Those gravel trails run quite close to some protected wetlands. There's reptiles that like to bask on the gravel, and turtles that could nest there as well. So do you do some teaching around that type of safety?
Especially during turtle season, we send out messages to our public just because, first of all, we don't want to hit any animals whatsoever, especially considering we're on two wheels, but the fact that we all care about animals. We're also very strict about staying on the trails all the time and avoiding sensitive lands. We've been fighting for a very long time to have access to trails, so we don't want to ever lose it. So, not only do we go out and educate our riders, but our riders really do a really good job at educating each other. And they have no problem calling out another person that might be doing something that they shouldn't be doing.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Winters.
Thank you, and it's a great presentation. I think there's merit in moving forward to investigate it. One of my concerns would be, how do multiple clubs work together as far as maintenance? What's your experience moving forward, for different clubs saying, hey, you've got use of our trails, but the maintenance, we're doing the maintenance on behalf of you?
We share the maintenance costs first. So, for example, in Bruce County, we work very closely with Huron Shores ATV Club. And so what we do is we do reports, we do, patrolling reports to see if there's any damages or anything like that on the trails, and then we work with each other. In some areas, we just report directly to the county or the municipality and say, this is what needs to be done, we can take care of it, do whatever. But throughout the province, most of the trails are all shared networks. So we work very closely with OFATV in some areas of the province, and then of course, right in this area, it's EOTA. So it's us working with a local club, and it's just opening up those forms of communication. A lot of shared work that needs to be brought together, and even opportunity for shared events.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mark Earl. Yeah, great presentation, and I do support the theory behind it all too. And that was kind of my question too, was related to how do you work with the clubs that are already in place in the township or in the county, even at that, and as long as they're working together to get to the same thing at the end of the day, that's good. So that was really what I was curious to know too, how you established working with the groups that are already here. So you've already mentioned that. So no, it was good. Good presentation.
Councilor McComb.
I forgive my ignorance, but how is it policed? Like, how does one make sure that the right people are on there? I know with the OFSC, you see police at various different stops. How does it work with bikes?
So somewhat it's the same. It depends on, a lot of the time, either the county or the municipalities will let us know what they want us to do. So some areas, there's bylaw enforcement that we do contribute towards. In some areas, we have patrols. I'll give you an example. Kawartha Lakes, they actually went out and got their volunteers to be bylaw officers so they can write tickets and issue tickets. But really what we do is, in most areas, is we educate. So we have people that will ride the trail depending on the time, and then if they do see somebody that shouldn't be there, they just stop. And again, it's education because we don't have the ability to lay charges. But we do, if we see somebody that's doing something dangerous or something that we don't approve of, we have gone to the OPP and we have asked them to issue trespass charges on our behalf, which they have done, especially down in Simcoe County.
Do people call you guys sort of directly to report those sorts of things?
They do.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And it's province-wide. I'll get people that will have issues. And sometimes, it's easier to track them down, but, sometimes it's just signage education or sending out messages, again, through the community, just as a friendly reminder. I will be honest that, we will see most of the people that are part of the OFTR do follow all the rules, but there are people that are not part of our community that do break the rules. We do try and find them and, of course, educate them.
But they're likely, presumably, out there riding the trail right now anyways.
Probably. Or people's farmers' fields, we hear about that too.
That's right. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. I'm just going to look to council. Do we want to give some direction to bring this back in some form?
I'd move that to get a report back for sure.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion then on how we want that direction coming back or what we're looking for? I will turn to the clerk to see what you have for a motion there then.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I just have a simple one, if that works, or council can provide some feedback into it. I've crafted that staff be directed to author a report with respect to the feasibility of a land access agreement with the Ontario Federation of Trail Riders.
I will call the vote then. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And our next presentation is Lumax Group, Bill Lorimer, Fire Master Plan and Community Risk Assessment. And before we start, because I think this one's going to be a little longer than normal, we need a motion to waive the procedural bylaw to allow some additional time for this presentation. Deputy Mayor Pringle, Seconder, Councillor Winters, all in favor? That is carried.
I was gonna do it in 10 minutes.
Welcome, Mr. Lorimer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members of council, I'm not really good at speed reading, but I'll do my very best. So this is, I'd like to introduce Mike Villeneuve as well. He's a member of the Lumax Group, my associate. So he's joining us as well. So this is a brief presentation. We'll talk about the CRA, or the Community Risk Assessment, and Fire Master Plan, and then we'll take your questions at the end. We'll talk about the Community Risk Assessment first. The Community Risk Assessment identifies and examines which threats a community is most likely to face. Ontario Regulation 378/18 requires all municipalities to conduct a community risk assessment every 5 years, and requires each CRA to examine 9 community profiles that are listed here. So with the CRA and the Fire Master Plan, we had an approach and methodology of startup meetings, stakeholder engagements, data collection and analysis, and then a final draft, or a draft and a final report. So with the CRA, we evaluated using a matrix, and we evaluated the likelihood as well as the consequences, and we rated it from there. And this is what we found. We found 2 high severe weather event and fire and industrial occupancy, followed with residential occupancy, wildland, forest fires, and road highway incidences. Again, this is a community risk assessment from a fire department perspective, and also it's to do with the community at risk, not just an individual. So we came up with risk treatment plans, and again, this marries the Fire Master Plan as well. When we identified the 5 major risks in your community for severe weather event, mitigate, continue to provide public education about the importance of emergency preparedness, including what to do before, during, and after emergency, and share, work with applicable external partners to implement public education initiatives. Risk number 2, fire and industrial occupancy. Your community has significant industrial occupancies, and so for mitigation, develop a council-approved fire prevention policy that sets an inspection schedule, list fire prevention and public education initiatives, and smoke and carbon monoxide program for Georgian Bluffs. Also ensure, ensure that the ITFD has time and the resources needed to inspect these occupancies. Complete pre-incident planning processes, which means the fire department, members of the fire department can go to these occupancies and assess them prior to an incident. and review fire safety plans. For residential occupancies, fire and residential occupancies, develop a council-approved fire prevention policy that sets an inspection schedule and lists a fire prevention public education initiatives and smoke carbon monoxide program for Georgian Bluffs. Inspect select residential occupancies such as multi-unit dwellings, hotels, and other lodging facilities on a regular basis, and ensure that property owners are submitting their fire safety plans to the fire department. Continue to develop smoke and carbon monoxide alarm programs and analyze the types of fires and other incidences that occur in Georgian Bluffs. Number 4, wildland and forest fire. Continue providing public education and about Georgian Bluffs open air burning bylaw. Use social media channels or Georgian Bluffs official website, and ensure that the department's personnel continue receiving wildland firefighting training. And also share, work with the Ministry of Natural Resources as applicable. And the last risk for the CRA, mitigate and ensure that the department's personnel receive ongoing training about vehicle firefighting, auto extrication, and hazardous materials responses, and ensure that the departments personnel receive ongoing training about responding to highway and road incidences that involve electric vehicles. The next steps for the CRA is to review the document annually and update it. Develop a process for collecting and maintaining the data needed to keep the CRA current, and use the CRA to develop future strategic planning for the fire department. We move on to the fire master plan. We notice the current strengths of your department. You have dedicated firefighters who are committed to providing excellent service to the community. The ITFD has developed a fire inspection program that ensures fire inspections are conducted in various occupancies. And the ITFD has developed proactive code enforcement programs. The current challenges, as the ITFD has an aging fire station that lacks important features and resources. The ITFD faces a unique challenge of providing services to 2 municipalities. And the ITFD firefighters find it difficult to devote the time needed to obtain certifications, license, and medical qualifications. So there are, we divided these into main themes. These aren't all the recommendations, but the main ones. We made 67 recommendations for council to consider. The recommendations are designed to prioritize the safety of residents and firefighters. And the recommendations are all within Georgian Bluffs means to implement. And overall, the fire master plan outlines strategies and resources that will help council and local fire service personnel provide the appropriate level of service to Georgian Bluffs. So it's a strategic plan. The first section is establishing and regulating bylaw. Georgian Bluffs should update the ENR bylaw, or establishing and regulating bylaw, on an annual basis, as well as for the following reasons: clarify whether Georgian Bluffs Council or the fire board is the authority having jurisdiction over the ITFD, and which party is responsible for determining the ITFD's level of service. Reflect changes to the IFT's levels of service due to the implementation of the recommendations from the 2025 Georgian Bluffs Fire Master Plan, and reference NFPA standards when applicable. The second one is health and safety and risk management. Georgian Bluffs should encourage or direct the ITFD to implement the following: formalize firefighter cancer prevention plan, multi-year wellness program for firefighters, formalize pre-incident program, incident safety officer program that's designed for the safety of firefighters during incidences. Georgian Bluffs should encourage or direct the ITFD to also improve the fire department's cleaning and disinfecting facilities, and ensure that all fire departments' protective ensembles, which is bunker gear, are inspected by the organization's personnel on a regular basis. The third section refers to staffing and training. Georgian Bluffs should consider hiring a full-time deputy chief of fire prevention and emergency management. When this position is filled, Georgian Bluffs should discontinue its fire prevention services agreement with the city of Owen Sound. Georgian Bluffs should provide the IFT with a dedicated administrative assistant. Ideally, the administrative assistant would also respond to emergencies as a firefighter. Georgian Bluffs should request an annual strategic training and certification report from the ITFD. And Georgian Bluffs should direct the ITFD to formalize an officer development program and encourage the ITFD's leadership personnel to attend courses, conferences, and seminars related to fire service leadership and emergency management. The next section refers to operations and service delivery. Georgian Bluffs should encourage the ITFD to work with the Owen Sound Fire Department, Meaford Fire Department and Meaford and District Fire Department to develop, maintain common response procedures, benchmarks, equipment, and training for multi-story incidences. Georgian Bluffs should direct the ITFD to conduct an annual review of its effective response force, deployment statistics, response times, and staffing levels. The review should compare relevant statistics to the demand zone response outline on NFPA 1720. And NFPA is a standard that is widely used with the fire department. Georgian Bluffs should negotiate municipal or mutually beneficial fire service agreements with neighboring municipalities in order to improve response times and service levels in the township. And Georgian Bluffs should collaborate with the town of South Bruce Peninsula to develop a standardized approach to the level and delivery of fire and emergency services in Georgian Bluffs. Infrastructure and capital projects. Georgian Bluffs should build a satellite station in Kimball in order to decrease the ITFD's response times and improve its service performance. Georgian Bluffs should replace the ITFD's current fire station with a new fire station on a larger lot. Georgian Bluffs should direct the ITFD to develop an asset management plan for replacing the fire department's apparatus and all pieces of equipment with predetermined life cycles. And Georgian Bluffs should conduct a water supply study to assess non-hydrant protected areas of the community to determine the feasibility of installing dry hydrants or cisterns in those locations. Fire prevention and public education. Georgian Bluffs should direct the ITFD to develop a cost-effective public education policy that aligns with NFPA 1035 and meets the community risk needs and circumstances. Georgian Bluffs and the ITFD should advocate for the installation of residential sprinkler systems in all new buildings constructed in Georgian Bluffs. Georgian Bluffs should investigate opportunities to facilitate shared fire investigation services between ITFD and neighboring fire departments. And Georgian Bluffs should direct the ITFD to use signage to communicate fire safety messages and emergency preparedness information with members of the community. That's my presentation.
So, any questions? Councillor Day.
If I might start and ask you, Mayor, a question, how would you like us to save our questions tonight for a presenter, or is this a night where we discuss things at a broader level?
So I think I would suggest that we are just asking questions on the presentation. I would think that we are directing staff to bring something back at a later date that we would have more fulsome discussion about all of these recommendations at that time. I don't think we want to discuss all of that now. So just maybe questions tonight for clarification.
Thank you for the clarity there. I can start. Thank you. I remember when we talked about starting this process, and I had questions about forest fire, and I still have questions about forest fire. I felt like when I asked those questions previously, it was sort of like, oh, that's not really a big deal for Georgian Bluffs. And I was a little surprised to see it as a moderate risk in Georgian Bluffs, as well as some language which I'm struggling to fully understand. In the CRA, there was wildland fire and forest fires as terms that were used with no definitions. And then the fire master plan refers to brush fires. So it wasn't always easy to interpret which type of fire we were talking about, if it was a scrub land, a field, like an unplowed field, or if it was a true forest fire getting into some of the conservation areas. So I just wondered if there's some clarity about what wildland fires are and what is really the biggest risk for Georgian Bluffs in that regard.
I think that those terms can be interchangeable. They're for our use. It's referring to areas where there's brush, trees, areas of agriculture that could create a problem. Yep. So we're talking about the same from our perspective.
Okay.
In the official, there is differences, but for our presentation, wildland fire and forest fires, we're referring to one and the same.
And along those lines, in terms of fire safety, I noticed FireSmart was recommended in the CRA, but not necessarily listed in the fire master plan, and wondered if that would, if that's sorry, FireSmart. FireSmart is the source I've looked at before for my class that I teach on natural disasters, just at the high school level. I'm not an expert, but FireSmart prepares it. Like, it's been promoted a lot in BC, where there's been a lot of forest fires, and it's landscaping to prevent a forest fire from damaging a community or a house. So if we're looking at forest fires, I just wonder if that should be in the fire master plan as well as in the CRA, and if it should be more have a little bit more attention given to it.
I don't recall the material in the fire master plan because it's such an in-depth document. But if it was in the summary here, it should be located in the fire master plan.
They are long documents, so it's possible I encountered it in the CRA and missed it when it was in the fire master plan. My last question about fires, I promise, and I kind of expect to get the same reaction to this question that I got when I brought up forest fires the last time around, and I'm prepared for that. And I'm not expecting a giant move in any direction, but I'm just curious if prescribed fires were considered when writing this master plan. And before we before a knee-jerk reaction about intentionally lighting a fire, I just wanted to throw out some context that the City of Toronto Urban Forestry Program has been using prescribed fires in Hyde Park since 2000 now, and there was a prescribed fire in Colpoys Bay not too long ago, and I believe there are some plans to have that happen again, so that the natural grasses can lay their seeds down to regenerate some land with indigenous species, native species on that piece of land. So, another advantage of prescribed fires can be that they decrease the amount of burnable material in the forest, so the intensity of a forest fire could be decreased. So I was just curious if there'd been any work done in this part of southwestern Ontario to look at prescribed fires.
Not heard of any prescribed fires. That's usually the Ministry of Natural Resources that has expertise in that. We have not done any prescribed recommendations because these are usually urban municipal fire departments that may not have that expertise to provide that. We're not opposed to prescribed burns by any means, but the strategic plan didn't address the types of management that you could use for that. We did refer to managing wildfires, but how you do that, the types of strategies that you deploy will be left up to the municipality.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Would you like me to take a break? I do have another topic, but if other people have questions, I could save my other topic for later.
How about you just go ahead and then we'll move on to somebody else.
I have two very short questions. In addition to B&Bs, should that also be all types of short-term rental accommodations in the CRA?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
As short-term rental accommodations, if I read the CRA accurately, there was a line for the number of B&Bs in Georgian Bluffs, but it was not inclusive of all short-term rental accommodations. And I believe we have some data that could be used to add into that. But that could be something we sort out later. And I guess and I just wanted to point out there's a Kemble Farm School and a Oil Sound Forest School that were not on the list of schools on the CRAs that might need to be added. While they spend most of their time outside, they are a congregation of children. That might be worth listing in the plan so we know they're out there. I'll leave my last topic as the me generation. I just wanted to read to council and folks in the room this definition of me generation as a generation that was moving towards intense individualism, narcissism, and self-actualization, focusing on personal fulfillment, mental health, and wellness over communal and political action, sometimes viewed as selfish. And that definition of the me generation was actually written by someone named Tom Wolfe in 1976 to describe the baby boomers. So I wanted to see if there was an alternate language for the me generation, which could look at some of the challenges younger adults are facing in society in a more gentle way, so that it's not quite as harsh of a quick description of them, whereas I'm sure, like, if we compare how hard it is to pay for an education and buy a house, there could be less time for volunteering if younger people are facing more challenges. So understanding the challenges that younger folks are going through may be a better way to approach them than saying you're intensely selfish.
Noted. Thank you.
I'll stop there.
Thank you. Excellent points. Councilor McDowell.
Thank you very much for a great presentation, super comprehensive, and super long. We've all put a lot of time into it, and thank you. When I take a look at these, I sort of divide them into two pools, really. There's sort of like operational recommendations, and then there's strategic recommendations. And I'm interested in both of them. As a comment, well, no, let's ask the question first. If there's a recommendation, am I to presume that item is at least worth underlining, if not happening right now? So for example, a formalized firefighter cancer prevention plan, or incident safety officer program, or a pre-incident program, those must not be happening now, or they're inadequate in your opinion, or they wouldn't be on this list.
That might be a question for the chief.
Okay.
But from my recollection, there could be informal programs, like, for example, officer development. Officer development might be a mentoring program, but it's more informal in nature.
Okay.
And the recommendation might be saying create more formal written procedures. But I don't want to speak for the chief. He would probably have a better answer for that.
Okay, perfect. And that's the kind of thing that we would dive into as you work with staff on, sort of fleshing this out and figuring out, what can be tackled and what they recommend. Is that sort of the next step?
The next step would be for the fire chief to make these recommendations, to prioritize them, and then to make recommendations to council, and based on that. So for example, you mentioned about officer development. There might be some costs with courses, for example, or seminars, or, so that recommendation should come from the chief saying, in addition to the informal training that's being conducted, there might be more like information on NFPA standards for instruction, having more instructors come back and being able to deliver some material. So it might also be that as well. So.
Chief sort of question?
So I'm just, CAO, did you have comment to make there?
Well, I don't want to interrupt the council, I think, and I don't want to speak for the chief, so the chief can put a finer point on this, but this document has been out there for a while, and we've had a chance to digest it, and so we've already started some of the work, so my anticipation is that after we leave here tonight, we'll have a missive to come back with recommendations and a report from there. But many of the recommendations that have been made that the chief is actively working on and sort of formalizing already, because they're not of the nature that you would think, well, let's see if this is important or not. We would see that it's important and we've already started on it. So I think it's a good question, and if you have specifics, I mean, I could defer to the chief on a specific question, but I think that'll be the next steps, is us coming back with, what's done already, what are we working on, what do we recommend for the future.
And would that include sort of some of the strategic recommendations, such as changing relationships with surrounding municipalities and cities?
I think,
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting how people break them down into different buckets. Like I have broken them into sort of 6 different buckets that were, capital, larger capital strategic pieces, some of them that are governance, some of them that are operational, some that are training, some are safety.
Yeah.
So I think, depending on how big or small, I mean, we haven't started doing anything with the new fire hall, which will surprise you.
Chief's not building that right now?
We're not working on that one just yet. That would need a different conversation, but many of those things that are quick and easy and things that we recognize should be done are already underway and completed.
Okay.
And to you, Your Worship, to add to that, thank you for the reminder. A lot of these recommendations, or some of them, I should say, in other fire master plans that we have done, are actually completed before we even finish the draft, because we know that we've been working on this for a long period of time. So that's not only are they ongoing now, some of them are actually working on them. And I did have a brief conversation with the chief, and again, I don't want to speak for the chief, but that is not uncommon to be able to say we're working on these topics. But
Excellent. Well, thank you. And again, it's super comprehensive.
So I'm wondering if perhaps one of the next steps is the chief coming back to us and speaking to all of council with where the fire department is with a lot of these recommendations.
Yeah, for sure.
That might be part of our next steps. Councillor Winters.
I want to thank you for a very detailed presentation and a very detailed report plan. And one of the things that's always, in my mind, been lacking is council has not really understood their role, and they've relied on the ITFD to look after their interests. But it is actually a council responsibility to set those levels of standards, to set that direction, and support the chief in bringing back. So I want to make sure that that's emphasized, and it is in your report, but I want to make sure I emphasize it here today, that it's as council, it's not the ITFD giving direction, it's George Bluff's giving direction to the ITFD at the level of service. So there are a lot of recommendations there in the governance that I think need to be addressed sooner than later. I think they've been informal, but it needs to be put in writing. So I think it's a great start. I did have a detailed conversation with the chief, and I'm looking forward to his report coming back, what he's implemented and where we're headed. But it's a great report. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, McGill. Yeah, I know, kind of echoing what Councilor Winters said there too. I think the next steps are to get a report come back to us on the recommendations that are in front of us, and including the fire chief and our discussions, and get pen to paper here and get things formalized and done. So no, it was a very good report.
Excellent. I'll go to Councillor Scholdice first and then come to Councillor Day. Councillor.
Yeah, thanks. I'm looking forward to hearing the chief's recommendations, and I'm going to echo Councillor Winters and Deputy Mayor. And I'm just going to say we have a tremendous and very professional firefighting department, and I'm thankful for everything you guys do. So it's great. Happy to support anything for sure.
Thank you. Councillor Day.
I just wanted to take a minute while our fire chief is in the room to express gratitude and thank you and your staff for the ice rescue in our recent past. It feels like an opportunity I don't want to miss while you're in our presence. So thank you very much. I think I can say that.
Yes,
on
thank
behalf
you
of
for
all of
bringing
us.
that up. Yes.
I just wondered if the fire chief had anything to add to my comments. I just wanted to know if that's.
Well, just very regard for what the councillor was saying there, just to give you an idea of the recommendations. So you're talking about mentoring officers. We've actually in-house, we are bringing in a learning contract from the OFM to do internal training so that we can get these people certified. So that's the kind of the direction we're going. So moving forward, we just want to hit those benchmarks. Same with incident safety officer. Now we have the ability through the OFM, through the learning contracts, to bring that in-house. This stuff is always being done kind of informally, as he was saying, but now it's going to be pen to paper so that we can have that dealt with. There's one thing about agreements with other departments, we do have agreements, we're just solidifying them. We do work quite well with our neighbors, so what the document says, you know, it kind of miscues it. But we do have agreements with our neighbors. We work well with them, and we're just firming up, working with the city, we're firming up an agreement with them. We do have informal, like, you know, we'll help you, you help us sort of thing. So it's just pen to paper is what we're doing. So that's through the recommendations through Bill. So we've hit a lot. We're working on those. Cancer prevention's another one we're working on quite heavily right now, kind of making that checklist, making sure we're hitting all the marks. And then, so yeah, so that's kind of an idea, just to give you a heads up.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So we'll receive this report and make a recommendation for the next steps to proceed. Looking to the clerk, I need a mover and a seconder to start.
Through you, Madam Mayor, if staff have confirmed that an additional report is coming forward, I don't think any action is required at this time.
So we're good with that? Okay, thank you very much.
Your worship.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have no delegations on agenda items, no public inquiries. Does any member wish to pull items from the consent agenda? Councilor Day.
Do we need to pull 9.1.1 and 9.2.2 because I'm declaring very interested for those?
Yes.
If they're not being pulled otherwise, I think it's okay for Councilor Day to just refrain on voting from adopting the consent agenda. Unless others are pulling them for other reasons, which is totally fine.
Does anyone else have anything they're pulling? I have one, the 9.1.3, the Graybers Ontario Health Team. I would like to pull that one. So the recommendation recommendation is that we accept all items on the consent agenda except for item 9.1.3. And could I have a mover and seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Pringle, Councillor Winters, and we will note that Councillor Day is not voting on this issue, so I will call the vote on everything else. All in favor? That is carried. And 9.1.3, my reason for pulling that one is there's some really good information in there, and I'm wondering if we could have that shared on the website for residents' information, especially those who don't have a doctor, and that gives some good information on how to look into accessing one. So if council is in favor of that, I would ask for a mover and a seconder. Councillor McComb, Councillor Day. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the vote. All in favor. That is carried. Information reports, we have two. One is the 2025 council remuneration and expenses, and the other is the annual drinking water summary reports. Unless council wants to pull either of those for further discussion, I will read the recommendation that all information reports contained herein be received. So not Deputy Mayor Pringle. Can I have a seconder?
Just one question about the annual drinking water reports. Is I was under the impression that that had to be like a council resolution separately that was satisfy the ministry requirements. Is that still there?
Thank you, and to you, Mayor Colton. Yes, I do believe that that requirement about the council resolution accepting the annual reports is still needed under this.
So should it be pulled as a separate item and then have a motion attached to it? It would be my recommendation.
That would be my thought as well. Okay, so let's deal with the council remuneration and expenses first then. And if there's no discussion on that, I will ask for a mover and a seconder to receive that for information. Deputy Mayor Pringle, Councillor McComb. There's no further discussion. I'll call the question on that one. All in favor? That is carried. And then the annual drinking water summer reports. Is there specific wording for that we need to have? And while the clerk is working on that, I'll call for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Winters, Councillor McComb, and just wait for the clerk.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I don't know that there has to be anything specific, so I've just crafted that the 2025 annual drinking water summary reports contained herein be received for information as a separate motion, so that it's clear that the 2025 drinking water reports are being received by council for information. And if that is wrong, I apologize.
Is everybody okay with that? Okay, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Reports for council consideration. The next item is the plow truck award. Recommendation is that council award RFT 2026-01 to Lewis Motors for the purchase of two 2026 International HV 615 tandem axle trucks with full snow clearing equipment at $443,305.57 for each truck, for a total price of $886,611.14, excluding HST. And that council award the extended warranty for comprehensive engine, after treatment, and DEF tank to Lewis Motors at $14,208 for each truck, for a total of $28,416, excluding HST. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? I'll look at Councillor Stolberg and Councillor Winters. And I'll turn it over to Jerry, Manager of Operations, Fleet Facilities, and Waste Services.
Thank you, through Madam Mayor. As directed by council, staff has tendered for two tandem axle trucks with full snow clearing equipment. 3 submissions were received. Submitters were Lewis Motor Sales, Curry Truck Centers, and B&I Complete Truck Center. Lewis Motors was the lowest price compliant bid at $443,000 per truck, for a total of $886,000 excluding HST. Staff are also recommending the purchase of an 84-month or 7-year extended warranty for the engine and emission controls. And the extended warranty is $14,200 per truck, for $28,400 excluding HST. Lewis Motors has both trucks in stock, and therefore we can have the 2 trucks, 2 Viking, within 2 weeks, which will shorten the overall time frame for when we'll be able to take delivery of the finished vehicles. Delivery is proposed at the end of March of 2027, and I am available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. We'll turn to council for questions. Mayor Pringle.
Thanks, Mark Earl. Yeah, it's thanks for the report there, Jerry. Obviously, we're in need of 2 trucks after what we've been having, the issues that we've had with a couple of trucks in the fleet already. So it's nice to see the availability to get a couple coming sooner than later, not be a couple of years waiting on them. And it's nice to see it is slightly under budget from what we'd put away in the bank. So that is good news too. So I'm in support of this piece.
Any other comments or questions?
No,
Councillor Winters.
and I just want to reiterate my support for that as well. And I think it's money well spent in today's day and age to do the extended warranty on these vehicles. The emissions and all of that engine components are showing issues. It doesn't matter what brand or model you buy, they're all susceptible to the same thing. So I think that makes sense for the municipality.
Thank you. The only question I have, and this is maybe more for the public who might be listening, We're saying that these are in stock at Lewis, but then we're saying we're not going to get delivery until March of 2027. Can you explain that?
Right, so when we purchase a truck through a vendor, they're selling us the cab, frame, truck, the wheels, the engine, that part of it. They then have to deliver their truck to Viking to get all the snow clearing equipment manufactured, put on the truck, and then delivered to us. So they have 2 trucks on their lot right now that were spec'd as per our spec. So they're very handy for us, ready to go. But you have to get the truck to Viking on their lot, then you get into their build cycle. So we are at the mercy of their build schedule, and that's where that delay is until the end of the year. Or sorry, end of March of 2020.
A year from now. Okay. Okay, thank you for that explanation. Councillor Scholdes?
Yeah, thanks. Last time this conversation came in front of the Horseshoe, I was in support of it, and I am in support of it still. I think this is an expense that's needed from an operational standpoint, and I'm happy to be standing behind it. So thanks, Jerry, for this report.
Thank you. And if there's no other comments or questions, I'm all in favor. That is carried. Next item is the closure of the access road at lots 21 and 22, concession 3, Georgian Bluffs. Recommendation is that council approves the revised license agreement appended as Schedule A and that a bylaw be presented for enactment. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Scholdes and Councillor McComb. And am I deferring to Michael? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Carlton. So as Council may recall, last December, we received information from the Ontario Court of Appeals noting that there was an access road that accessed a roughly 180 acre interior parcel owned by the Walnus, which is just on the south side of Highway 6, a little bit up from Springmount. And sometime in the past, the township had done work on that access road, which essentially turned it into an open and maintained municipal road. That that access road is no longer usable. In fact, when you drive along that, you can kind of see a bit of a laneway coming off of Highway 6, but it's almost not even there anymore. So what staff met with our legal counsel, and what legal counsel is recommending is that the township stop up and close that quote-unquote access road through a municipal bylaw, and then enter into an agreement with the Walmas permitting them to use the now stop up and close road allowance to maintain access to that interior parcel. So this report provides some bit of a background analysis with it, and then provides a draft agreement that we would have with the Walmas for the access road. Next steps would be obviously to enact a bylaw to allow the township to enter into that agreement, as well as bring forward a bylaw that stops up and closes that access road.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Council. Just a point of clarity as well. Council has already passed a bylaw to stop up and close this section. This report and bylaw are just recommending some slight amendments that were received from the other party just after we adopted the licensing agreement. So this is just to capture those changes that came in after we had already adopted the licensing agreement. So it's already stopped up and closed. It's just to adopt those slight changes and authorize the updated licensing agreement, just for absolute clarity.
Thank you. Does council have any other questions on this? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Next recommendation is that council be recessed and hereby moves into Committee of the Whole. Committee of the Whole. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor McComb, Councillor Day, all in favor? That is carried. And over to
All
Deputy
right,
Mayor.
thank you, Mayor Carlton. All right, so on our first report is 12.1.1 CES 2026-004. Use of reserve funds for the purchase of a used plow truck. And the recommendation reads that council approve the use of $58,000 from the vehicle and equipment reserve for the purchase of a used tandem axle plow truck. I need a mover and a seconder on the floor. Councilor Winters, Councilor Shouldice, and Jerry, Manager of Operations. Floor is yours.
Thank you. As previously reported to council, we had two tandem axle plow trucks in particular that have been incurring significant repair costs as of late. Since reporting to council on January 7th, both trucks unfortunately have continued to incur further breakdowns. One of them currently, which is the V241 truck, has been broken down for the last 3 weeks. This time is actually not truck related, it's the snow clearing equipment related. And we are currently still working with Lewis Motors and Viking to source replacement parts, but they're no longer manufactured. So we're kind of desperately scouring the province and probably into the States as well for replacement parts, but have, as of right now, still have not found replacement parts for it. So it's currently sitting, not being able to be utilized. Full transparency, the truck runs and can operate, but we can't stand with it. So it could plow snow if we are desperate to plow snow with it, but then we would have to utilize another vehicle to come in behind and apply winter maintenance material behind it. So therefore, we've been working with no spare plow trucks for the last 3 weeks, but have been able to have repairs on and maintenance completed on the remainder of the fleet. Just by happenstance, we've had some break-in weather the last couple of weeks that we've been able to fit that stuff in. But it's obviously it's not the way we want to operate with just the right amount of trucks for roads, because any breakdowns cause us operational issues. Our next vehicle to be completed is a single axle plow truck that had arrived at Viking in January of 2026. The truck has been scheduled into production with Viking, but it's not anticipated to be delivered until like the very end of 2026. An hour ago, I was on the phone with Viking again just to confirm timing, and yeah, it's the end of December of 2026 before they're scheduling that to be delivered. And their timing that far out is very up in the air right at this time. So therefore, we will not have a replacement for V241 until after the next winter season has already went underway. In networking with other municipalities, we became aware that Grey County is selling a 2012 Freightliner tandem axle plow truck, complete with snow clearing equipment, as part of its annual vehicle replacement program. I note that on purpose because it's not that they're noting that this thing is end of service life. It's a lemon and they need to get rid of it. It's just a part of their replacement program, and it comes recommended that this is a pretty good truck, and they've been utilizing it 3, 4, 5 days a week as their spare truck this past winter, and it's still in operation right now. George Bus staff have had an opportunity to operate and review the truck, and they believe it is in good working order. The cost of the truck itself is going to be $32,000. We are aware that it does need some clutch work, so we applied some cost into that as well. It also will need to be safetied and licensed for the year. So the total ask for the purchase and operation of this truck for 2026 would be $58,000 from reserve. And I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thanks, Jerry, for the report. Questions from council? Councilor McComb?
Yeah, thanks for the report, Jerry, and you took my question. I was going to ask if it's a limit, so turns out it's not.
Yeah, well, yeah. With any used purchase, for sure. As soon
any
as it
new
shows up here, I have no idea and can't predict how it is. I would say I have a pretty good relationship with the Grey County Fleet Manager, and I don't think he would lead me astray when he said it's been good to us, and it's they have new trucks coming in, and it's going to be pushed out the door as part of their replacement program. So.
Good comments.
What would you expect the life cycle to be on something like that that's already 13 years old?
Good question. I'm only anticipating utilizing it for a year, but depending on what happens with these other trucks over the next year, because we do have several other actually older trucks than the two that we're talking in particular about, that they could all of a sudden take a dive. If the truck is working good and it's not costing us a lot of money or whatever, I would push our own vehicles down the road first before this one. But I'm anticipating at least getting one season out of it. And if it ends up being that it is the next truck to go down the road as well, I would anticipate that we would get very similar to the same cost back that we would be putting out now to purchase it from Grey.
Great, thank you.
Good comments, Cindy. Yes, Councilor Winters.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I was going to ask the same question. I assume we had the conversations about its history and maintenance and stuff, and I think the guys at Grey County are pretty honest, and we'll share that with you. My only recommendation is that we don't keep those other two trucks until next winter. We get rid of them before that. There's a market for them in September and October. People buying used plow trucks. You'll get more bang for your dollar and we'll get more return than keeping them trying to sell a used plow truck in the middle of the winter when the market has already been saturated. So that'd be my only recommendation. It is a bit of a risk, but I think starting the season, that's a small risk to take to maximize some money back to the municipality.
Comments? Any further comments?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Jerry.
Sorry, just there was a previous comment that I think may have been in the January 7th one that maybe Councillor Winters, forgive me if I got this wrong, but we did talk about potential of not pushing these trucks down the road and maybe keeping them as a parts truck for another truck that we currently have. I just throwing that out there that these two that we are talking about could be parts trucks for each other. Your point is well taken that prior to the winter season would be the best time to get rid of them. My only thing would be is that if at that point in time, we may only be in a situation where we can get rid of one of them, not both of them. So then we would be getting rid of the opportunity of keeping the one as a parts truck for the year.
Thanks for that. Follow-up questions? I think just note there too, if we happen to be able to purchase this one here, we get it here and find out it's going to work out well or whatever, then we can re-examine and whether we eat one sooner than later. If we have to move one down the road then too, we can certainly look at that piece of it. So it would be nice to have something here though, for sure. All right, no further questions then. I will call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Next one is 12.1.2 DEV 2026-023 official plan update status. Recommendation reads that council receive report DEV 2026-023 official plan update status for information, and the council directs staff to pursue option 2. A new official plan is described in the report. Need a mover and second to get on the floor. Councillor Day and Councillor Winters. Michael, Director of Development and Infrastructure. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So, as council is aware, we've been working on a new official plan, or shall I say an update to the 2014 official plan since 2021. Finally got it to the stage where we were ready to move forward with adoption. And then in 2024, the province released the new provincial planning statement. So we had to go back to the plan, include all the information, all the policies that were included in that new provincial planning statement into the updated document. That updated document was finally approved by council and moved on to the county as the ultimate approval authority last July. While we were at the county, waiting for the county to approve our plan, the province then announced the Building Faster and Smarter Act, which came into power in 2025. That act is, so as I understand from other planning colleagues and the planners at the county, was a little bit confusing in how it, initially confusing as to how it impacted official plans and official plan updates. Through a lot of back and forth with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, county planning staff determined that any updates to official plans that amended our sections dealing with information requirements and procedural matters needed pre-approval from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. At first we thought, or the county thought, okay, that shouldn't be a problem. Pre-approval should probably happen pretty quickly. And there was our official plan, Town of Blue Mountains official plan update, and another one that kind of fell into that area where we would have to go to the ministry before the county could approve it. In discussions with ministerial staff, the county planning staff determined that approval would take months, 6 to 8 months to get the ministry to approve the plan. Once the minister approved the plan, then it would have to come back to council for readoption and then back to the county for final approval. And that timing puts us very much near the end of this term of council, if not into the next term of council. We were working on that path, and then our the planning consultant, J.L. Richards, who works on a number of official plans across the province, who's also working on our official plan update, was working on a new official plan for a northern municipality. And through that work, they discovered that new official plans, quote unquote new official plans, do not require ministerial pre-approval for some reason. So David Wellwood from J.L. Richards said, well, why can't we'll take a look at our updated plan and call it, for all intents and purposes, a new official plan. So we spoke to the county staff about that. County staff spoke to the ministerial staff about that. And they said, yes, that's a good idea. If you do that approach, then you don't need, for whatever crazy reason it is, you don't need pre-approval from the ministry. So staff are thinking that would be probably the better approach to take with getting our official plan done. And what that would require is having another public meeting to reintroduce the exact same plan, as instead of an updated official plan, we'll now call it a new official plan. We'll have the public meeting for that plan, and then following the public meeting, come back to council to adopt the quote unquote new official plan, and then take that new official plan back to the county for approval. And speaking with county staff, if we can work on getting the new official plan through a new public meeting and adoption at this township, then the county will work very, very hard to get us a new official plan approved by the county in June. So we're looking at, April, May, June-ish for that exercise, as opposed to 6 to 8 months waiting for ministerial approval for the updated official plan. Essentially, it'll look like the same document. The only other piece I wanted to mention is that through this exercise, that gives us a chance to include some very recent updated policies regarding battery energy storage systems that we should probably implement given what has occurred in Aaron Elderslie, and also to do some updates to our official plan schedules that reflect some of the changes in terms of a bit of hazard lands mapping has changed, and some of our settlement areas have changed slightly in terms of the designations within them. So some minor amendments to that way.
Thank you, Michael, for that explanation of what you're trying to get accomplished there. I'm going to turn it over to Councilman for questions or comments. Councilor Day.
I have so many questions. Most of the parts, it's a very Byzantine process to see this go through. My one point of clarification is presumably we'll still need ministerial approval after the plan has been approved by the county. Is that a correct assumption? And will that approval likely happen before this end of council?
And so, Deputy Mayor, that's a really good question. And funny enough, the county has been delegated approval for official plans. So a new official plan does not need ministerial approval following county approval. It's only that ministerial pre-approval when you're messing around with information requirements and like study requirements and how you go through your own approval processes for official plan amendments that require, those policies require ministerial pre-approval so that the official plans aren't in any way holding up development within the province.
Oh,
No, I bite my tongue.
Mayor Girl.
Thank you. I'm really glad to hear you answered what was going to be my question, was about the best units, that we'll get those into that official plan ahead of the possibility of being approached at any somewhere in the township, given what Aaron Elderslie has gone through. So I'm glad that will be included. Thank you.
Very good. Any further questions? I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. 12.1.3 DEV 2026-013 Radio Communication and Broadcasting Antenna Systems Procedure Update. Recommendation reads, whereas the Township of Georgian Bluffs initiated and updated to its radio communication and broadcasting antenna systems procedure, the staff have prepared a draft for council's consideration. Therefore, it be resolved that report DEV 2026-013 Radio Communication and Broadcasting Antenna Systems Procedure Update be received as information, and the Georgian Bluffs Telecommunication Tower Policy PLNG-006-010 be rescinded, and an updated procedure forming attachment 1 to the report be approved, and that a bylaw be presented for enactment. Mover and seconder. Councilor Winters, Councilor McComb, and I don't see Ben, so I imagine going to Michael.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll be brief on this this report. We've noticed that our existing radio communication and broadcasting antenna systems report and procedure PIL NG 006-10 is no longer in alignment with the applicable federal legislation through Industry Canada that now dictates the approval process that needs to be followed for radio communication devices, antennas, cell towers, what have you. Ben has really done a lot of work at updating that existing policy to match the new policies that are coming out of Industry Canada. Some of the highlights of that policy are the options for municipalities to hold public meetings advising the public about telecommunication towers and working then with that communications tower provider to address any concerns that come out at public meetings. And then also to provide some very detailed site plans that would be available at those public meetings. So those are sort of some of the things that are coming through that policy enhancement. And the next step would be then to seek council approval for that policy.
Thank you, Michael, for that report. Questions, comments from council? Mayor Carlton.
Thank you. Just wanted the Radio Communication and Broadcasting Antenna Systems Preferred Location Procedure and Guidelines Report. On page 4 of that, and in another document that I think is from higher level of government, it references publishing in local newspapers. And I'm thinking if we do that, we miss a lot of people. And should we be changing the wording in that to reflect other methods of getting that message out? Because our local newspapers are rather sparse now.
Yes, and Ben and I did talk about that. If the local newspaper is I think it was a good way back in the day, but now with advanced technologies and things like that, newspapers really aren't what they used to be. And employing alternative methods, whatever those may be, social media, et cetera, I think would be the almost preferred method these days as opposed to a local newspaper. And we can certainly make those amendments in the policy to reflect that.
Thank you for that. Any further questions? All right, not seeing any of them. Mr. Shoulders. All right, if there's no further questions, we're going to call the vote then. All those in favor? That is carried. 12.2 is updates from members appointed to county council, committees, and local boards. And the first one was 12.2.1, the Southwestern Isotope Coalition Re-Government of Ontario announcement on expansion of Son Bruce Power Isotope Partnership. We'll get caught in the word there, but yeah, I wanted to bring this one forward to the rest of council to have. It is a great slideshow that was in the presentation and in our agendas here. And it's a lot easier for them to explain it than me trying to do it myself. So it's some good information and some good news. And then 12.2.2 was County Grade Paramedic Response Times and Mayor Sue Carlton.
Thank you. I asked to have this one put there for council's information to be aware that response times by paramedics within the township of Georgian Bluffs have been falling over a period of time, and they're not at this point expected to get better until there's another paramedic base within the township. So it's probably something that is maybe more important for new council to be aware of. And I'm wondering if we can somehow ensure that a report or a delegation from the county comes to the new term of council so that those people are aware of the situation within the township, just to understand what our residents are going to be facing potentially in that area.
Thank you.
So if we need a motion to that
Right.
effect, I would be willing to make that motion that we look into having a delegation come to the new term of council.
Sure. I would motion.
Motion by Mayor Carlton and Councillor McComb. You good with that? Yep. You call the vote then. All those in favor? That's carried. All right, so any further updates from council? Not seeing any further? Okay, well, we're heading back to council meeting then. At the committee of the whole meeting adjourned and recessed council at the resume time of 6:23.
Thank you. We have no zoning bylaws, other bylaws. First one is the 2026 to 20.
Oh, sorry.
Mayor, I think I might have missed, was that a motion to adjourn committee of the whole? Seconded and voted on?
Well, that was for the motion that Mayor Carlton put on the floor. We didn't.
Oh, we didn't do a motion to. It's still with you.
Oh.
Motion to.
Sorry.
I'm trying to walk you through a position that, yes.
All right. So I need a motion to move out of committee of the whole back to council. Here, Councillor McComb and Councillor Day. Any discussion? Not seeing any. Call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. Back to council.
Thank you. I think the clerk's on her toes there. Okay, so 2026 to 2030 council remuneration policy. The recommendation is that bylaw 2026-012, being a bylaw to adopt a council remuneration policy for the 2026 to 2030 council term and repeal bylaw 2021-088 and 2023-016, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Scholdes, Councillor McComb. Is there any discussion on that item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, I just wanted to flag that although there's a recommendation for repeal, this bylaw doesn't come into effect until the next term of council. So the current remuneration policy remains in effect until the new term of council. Just a point of clarity.
Thank you for that.
Only question, thank you.
Okay. There's no further discussion. I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Next item is a bylaw to adopt a sponsorship and advertising policy. And the recommendation is that bylaw 2026-013, being a bylaw to adopt a sponsorship and advertising policy for the Township of Georgian Bluffs, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Pringle, Councillor Day. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. And next is the short-term accommodation program amendments. Recommendation is that bylaw 2026-014, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2025-049 to license and regulate short-term rental accommodations within the Township of Georgian Bluffs, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Winters, Councillor Scholdes. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Next is the bylaw to amend fees and charges for short-term accommodation licensing fees. Recommendation that bylaw 2026-015, being a bylaw to amend Schedule O of bylaw 2025-078, 2026 fees and charges for the imposition and collection of fees for certain municipal services and activities, be read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Pringle, Councillor McComb. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Next item is repeal and replace Schedule A of bylaw 2025-077. Recommendation that bylaw 2026-016, being a bylaw to repeal and replace Schedule A licensing agreement of bylaw 2025-077, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Winters, Councillor McComb. Any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. We have no unfinished business. New business is further to a notice provided by Councillor Rick Winters, February 18th. The recommendation is, whereas council deems it of interest to investigate a municipal drain in the village of Kemble to resolve ongoing drainage challenges, therefore the council hereby directs the township's appointed drainage superintendent to prepare a preliminary report and cost analysis for a proposed municipal drain. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Winters and Councillor McComb, and I will turn it over to Councillor Winters for comments.
Thank you, Your Worship. I mean, this has been an ongoing issue in the municipality for eons, and it's not gonna go away. There's a lot of water coming in the village. No matter, as we spoke last time, no matter what we invest in capital upgrades in the intersection, still not gonna address the flooding issues and the water coming into town. So the only real way to do that is to look at a municipal drain. Under the Drainage Act, the municipality, the road superintendent can petition the drainage engineer to do a preliminary investigation and cost analysis. At this point in time, that's what we're petitioning him to do. It's not something that's gonna happen right away because there's a lot of background work that's gonna have to be done, drainage patterns, conversations. But I think it's something that we need to start moving forward with, or we're just gonna keep spending good money after bad money to deal with the situation.
Thank you. Is there any questions or comments, or does staff wish to comment on this one at all? Okay. Councillor Day.
I agree that it's important and should be completed. For clarification, is it a sizable enough fee just to do the study that it needs to be considered in the 2026 budget or 2027 budget or come out of reserves? I don't know if you had some thoughts on that, or if that's a question for staff.
Honestly, I don't have any thoughts on that. I assume we have some sort of budget item for drains. Whether that exceeds what we have there or not, but it's something, once you petition it, it starts the ball rolling. Whether the funds are there or not, it starts the ball rolling.
We have our treasurer here. Do you have any comments on that tonight?
Thank you, and through you. It's difficult to provide comments, but I don't know exactly how much it may cost for them to do some of that preliminary to fulfill a notice of motion. We do have included in our 2026 operating budget a drainage fund and departmental expenses. So we do have approximately, bear with me, $50,000 that we do put towards drainage as a whole. So we will, once communicating with our drainage superintendent, if needed, come back to council if there would need to be some of our reserve funds used in order to accomplish the notice of motion that is being presented.
Thank you. CAO?
I think just to restate that, yeah, once you have the outcome of your motion, we can come back with a bit better idea of what we're gonna be talking about after we get in touch with the drainage superintendent.
Thank you. If there's no other comments, I will call the vote. All in favor? That has carried. Does any member wish to provide a notice of motion or notice of discussion for consideration at a future meeting? Seeing nothing, we have no closed session. Confirming bylaw. Recommendation is that bylaw number 2026-017, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council on March 18th, 2026, be read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Pringle, Councillor Day. There's no discussion. I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Council will meet again as regularly scheduled on April 1st, 2026 at 5 p.m. If there's no other business, I will now call for adjournment of this meeting. Then a mover and a seconder. Councillor Winters, Councillor Day. Sorry, I should have read the recommendation first. The meeting be adjourned at 6:33 p.m. If there's no discussion, I will call the vote. All in favor? It's carried.